Hey everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Kayak Angler. I appreciate you listening or watching, whatever you're doing. Hoping you have had a good week so far, because I think this comes out on Wednesday. It's Sunday right now. First, congrats to the guys on the Hobie BOS down in Santee. Let me see, Chad Walden with 103 and a quarter, Russ Nyers 102, and Vinny Kamish with 101. Congrats to y'all. That's some crazy bags. So congrats. And congrats to AJ as always. Sure, the tournament was run great. And as always, you have a great schedule that, you're hitting these lakes at the right time. So a big congrats to you as well. So this weekend I had a tournament. It was the first AKAT on top of the River Region Kayak Anglers event. I got seventh in the River Region, which is 3 fish, and then fourth, I think is seventh out of 32, and then fourth out of 17 in the AKT. And that's like, it's kind of a high roller pot tournament on top of other tournaments we're going to do across the state. So you're really, whoever wins Angler of the Year for that, to me, is really challenging themselves. It's 4 out of 5 for Angler of the Year. I really wanted to fish all those because I want to be challenged to go across state, and because we're really blessed to have all different kinds of water here in Alabama, deep, clear like Smith Lake, rivers, all different kinds of stuff. So I really want to fish all those this year. So yeah, I did okay. It was fine. I'm not fishing enough River Region events to be in the run-in for Angler of the Year, but ACAT I am. So I was excited about the points. Only had one fish going into the last 2 hours, and I was able to pull out a 5-fish limit. I think I caught 6 in the last 2 hours, so really had to switch gears from, I found them spawning, was getting a bunch of bites, but they were just kind of picking it up and moving it, and I caught an 18 real early, so I thought, I'm on them. This is it. Got them figured out. Let's go. And then it just didn't happen. A lot of storms came through. The whole weather changed, totally different, and it just completely changed. I was struggling, and then at the end of the day, I went and found them. So it was a decent tournament, but I started thinking about, like, what should my expectations be going into a tournament? And whether that's for somebody who's new or for somebody who's been doing it for a long time, and how should I feel about doing bad at a tournament or doing okay in a tournament? I know how it feels to win. That's a damn good feeling. Like, I want to win every tournament just like everybody else. But we're a bunch of sadists as kayak anglers, and we choose to fish the sport where most of the time we are not going to win unless you're like, at the very apex of the sport, and those top 10 people, anglers who are, cutting a check almost every single event. Even they stumble and have a bad event sometimes. Maybe it's, a fishery that they wouldn't necessarily do well on. Maybe they're a shallow water angler and they go to a deep, clear fishery or whatever it is, and they're not able to catch them. So everybody is going to have these struggles in fishing. KVD, the best angler, tournament angler of all time, he even still has bad tournaments. So yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And the two people I brought on to do it is Mr. Mark Edwards and Matt Gibson. How y'all doing, guys?
Thanks for
Good. How are
having us
you?
on.
Good. I appreciate y'all being on. So I guess we're going to start with like going into a tournament expectations. I mean, it's a little personal. I read a lot of stoicism stuff. It feels like this, I journal sometimes. I read the Daily Stoic book. I read a lot of things about stoicism. For me, I think it's helped me both personally and in my fishing, mental wise. That's something I do because I'm into shit like that. But so I really try to focus on my preparation and not expectations, where, because I know whenever I get out on the water, if I had a good last tournament, it's good to have that confident. But whenever you go into your next one and you're on the water, oh, I'm going to win. So because I'm on a roll, nothing ever lives up to that expectation. So I really try to tamp expectations, and really just focus on my preparation and what I'm doing in each cast, and try not to think about how I'm doing. But it took me a long time to get here. Like I sucked for years. Like I ate shit. I don't mean to keep cussing, but I ate shit for years. Like
Yeah.
both tournament bass fishing and kayak fishing. I finally got into a place where I'm, doing well, cashing checks and all that good stuff. But it took me a long time to get here. So, what do y'all think? Maybe new anglers and experienced anglers. How do you view what your expectations should be?
Well, I go in like every tournament's different. I mean, and confidence is a key to fishing, and fishing's probably the most humbling sport out there because you can be so confident one day of practice, and then the next day they'll just hand you a humble pie, man.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's so much stuff that's out of our control with weather, equipment failures. I mean, I've had great days on the water that I didn't expect nothing, didn't expect much, and then have just a super great day. And then I've had days where I'm thinking I want to go in and win, and just you know tank.
But do you, I
But
mean, do you normally go into every tournament thinking, I'm Mark Edwards, I'm gonna win this, dude?
no, I'm 50-50. I mean, there's sometimes I get this year I ain't been too confident. I'm just Gunnersville. I know the time we hit Gunnersville a few weeks ago, it's the perfect time to be on Gunnersville. But there's a lot of uh, other people on the water at that time, and then the weather conditions coming into the tournament just was horrendous. So my practice was horrible, and that just made my confidence get worse and worse. Because I mean, I went to a spot I've never even fished before first day of the tournament. So
Yeah.
wasn't the brightest of ideas, and I assumed that pocket that I chose that was still clean from all the rain and all the dirty water. It didn't dawn on me that the water temp air was not going to be the same as the other places I checked out. I said this place ain't going to be blowed out. It ain't affected. Well, the water temp was 7 or 8 degrees colder. The
Mm,
fish wasn't. They wasn't positioned. They wasn't near the spawn as the other pockets was where I'd been in practice. So
gotcha.
yeah, so
Matt?
I mean, you're all pumped up. I was telling everybody at the house, I'm confident I can, and then just eat humble pie. You don't even get a limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm from Indiana here, and the joke always is we're all fishing for the same 5 fish in the tournament. Um, we're pretty limited here. So honestly, something that I've started doing is if I practice at all, which more and more I get busy with work and stuff. The less time I have to practice, so something that I try to do is go in and really not necessarily locate fish, but really just kind of get a lay of the land, and kind of go look at a lake and see where the ramps are, and see how my day is going to go that way. I think that's something that's helped me tremendously is not putting so much pressure in practice, or pre-fishing or anything like that, but really trying to hone in, really trying to listen to my instinct during a tournament day. It's something I do. One thing I always try to do is and tell myself is, if I get that 5 fish limit, chances are it's going to be a pretty good points day. So that's something I really try to focus on, and a lot of my lure selection is around getting those 5 bites, and then kind of moving on from there. But the competitor in me, it's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna win this tournament. Like, I just that's the way I'm built. So that sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Actually, many times it doesn't. And you mentioned, KVD. I saw a stat one time where it's something like he's been in the top 10, and this was in BASS, so years ago. Less than 30% of the time he was in the top 10, and he's the greatest fisherman to ever live.
Yeah.
So like,
That's how it is, man. Fishing
yeah,
is, like I I try not to be. Maybe it's just getting older too. Like I try not to get so hyped up like I want to be confident. I want to go into it that I'm ready, but I don't want to be so hyped up that afterwards, no matter how I do, unless I win, it's a letdown. You
Yeah.
know, like you want to do well, you want to have a good time and catch fish and catch a limit and get points and all that. But man, so many times I know I don't mean to bring it home to my family, but oh, that one fish I got away, or this or that, or it can be really hard to accept like a okay day or like
Yeah.
a top 10 sometimes, or even whatever first out of the money. Oh, I got good points, but first out of the I didn't make him folding money, or whatever it is. It can be tough for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
here in West Virginia, like Matt said, I just go for a limit. I mean, because it's tough. Today, I missed the first club tournament of the year. They actually postponed it from yesterday because of high winds, so they did it today. But I was at work and I kind of watched the leaderboard, and the lake's 70 foot winter pool, 70 foot below summer pool.
Wow.
So they started backing it up April 1st yesterday, and I didn't check the water level, but I heard that it went up 20 feet today. I mean, it already went up 20 feet in like 24 hours. How crazy is that? I mean,
Yeah.
I- and I and I won the tournament last year at a different time in April. But them fish, man, it's just it's such a mind game. You know what I'm saying? I was all prepared to fish yesterday, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, "How's these? Is these fish going to move with the water? Are they not going to move with the water?" And I didn't know it was going to go up that much as it
Yeah.
did today. But today, that the top three guys, they had the best inches there on that lake than we've had for the last 5 years, I think, which is kind of crazy, after a front and all that stuff, and then the water moving up like it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just all confidence and going into it. Uh, but like they were three real big bags, and then after that, it dropped pretty well off.
So I mean, what do you consider a good day? Like what your expectation of going into it, what are you shooting for? I mean,
Well, there's times that I've had a good day on the water, and I just figured out the fish. I didn't win a tournament,
uh,
but I mean, I'm sure everybody's once they figure out the fish, it's like a game you're playing. You figured out the fish, and you did well that day, but you might not have won the tournament, but you figured them out. You had a pattern. You caught fish all day. You had a fun day,
yeah.
and to me, that's a win, even though you didn't maybe win a tournament. But uh, as a competitor, man, it's tough to lose. I mean, anytime at home on all my clubs, I don't like to lose, but I really do lose way more than I win. But
yeah. I mean, for me, Dan, like something I really shoot for is fishing clean. If my equipment's good, if if I prepared my equipment, if I prepared myself, and I fish clean, don't lose any fish, or we're kayak fishing, so there's more to it to the day than what there is like in a boat tournament. Having something jump off the board, something like that. As long as
Which I had
well,
one. It doesn't hadn't happened to me in forever. I've been
yep,
doing that on my lap, and the first fish this weekend, so yeah,
yep.
Saturday did it to me. And it would have helped by like it wouldn't have helped me anymore, but it would have an extra inch. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
was
and,
that
and the
was
way
that
I look
earlier
at it,
today?
Yeah, oh yes, dang spots, Alabama bass, man, they're so angry.
yeah, I mean the way I look at it is if I fish clean, that's everything I could do that day. Like there's not much else I could have done. So fishing clean's important, and then just figuring something out on the water, like Mark was talking about. That's what excites me. And I've been fishing for over 30 years now, and tournament fishing for a very long time in the boat world and in the kayak world. And what really excites me still getting up every morning to go fishing is trying to figure those things out.
Yeah.
And learning a new technique or going, oh, this is why I'm missing so many fish on this lure is because I'm doing it this way and not that way. Or you change your line a little bit or something like that. Like those little keys to unlock some of the puzzle is really, really what excites me and really gets me going fishing anymore.
For sure. I think some of this too is like I want to enjoy fishing. I want to be able to, like, I can be so serious sometimes about tournament fishing that I'm thinking about all week. I really enjoy it. And then, it's like sometimes if I don't win on the weekend, it's like it's a letdown and it shouldn't be. I was out on the water, had a good time. Like this weekend, I really was excited because I found a limit in the last 2 hours. Like that was it really felt like a win to me. So not a win, but it felt like you're saying I can go home with a fish clean or I did this. So I guess that's a good takeaway is try to, it doesn't always have to be a win or a top 10 or a check or whatever it was you set your goal on. Try to take those small wins away too. And, whether it's just having enjoyment from fishing or going into the next one and building momentum and confidence about what you did. But, just, trying to enjoy your time out on the water and trying to enjoy your life too. Tournament fishing, I think if you get a little bit too tight and too not agitated, but like too over focused, too much pressure, you fish poorly anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and there's this term that tournament anglers like to use and say, "Oh, I just went out fun fishing today." I'm like, hell, man! Every time I hit the water, I'm having fun. Like, I love it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a tournament day, non-tournament day. Like, fishing is fun for me, so I don't understand that term, fun fishing. So
yeah.
I can say it's not
I hate to
always
lose so
fun.
bad, man. It's hard. It's really hard. Like my kids the same way too. I see it in him the same way I see it in myself. Like I hate to lose more than I like to win. Like it doesn't matter what it is. I don't want to lose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way I feel. But not every day is a great day. I've had some horrible weather days on the water where I just recently on Chick it was like 40 degrees and rained all day.
Mm.
It was rough.
Oh, yeah.
It was mentally rough. Just your hands was all wrinkled where it rained all day and cold.
hell, in Indiana, we call that a good spring day. So
I like
Yeah.
this is kind of I hear people talk about rain gear and all these other things. I've gotten to the point where I buy gill stuff and I buy it every 3 or 4 years. I buy some new stuff. I buy it in the summer whenever it's half off. I just want those out there and the gill stuff is so good. I'm not on.
mm-hmm.
They don't pay me or anything, but I like their gear. But I feel like my gear, and I always have like hot hands. I got like wool socks. I'm always prepared. Like I feel like it's almost become a plus factor. Like if it's crappy out on the water, like I feel like I'm going to do better because I'm prepared and I've invested the money into good gear. Like
Yeah.
I like this weekend, I won whenever it started storming and raining, except for the lightning because I had to get off the water because I don't f with lightning. But whenever it starts raining, I'm like, yeah, some people are they can't handle it right now, and I'm getting rained on, and let's go.
Yeah.
Buy good gear. I think that's important.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny you mentioned that. Like I don't know, last I don't know, probably 5-10 years. It seems like the best tournaments I have are the ones that are the toughest, like those grinder tournaments. Like
Yeah.
like those are the ones I'm like licking my chops. Like yeah, like this is exactly what I want. Like
Yeah, me too.
and I don't know if it's just kind of my point of view when it comes to tournament fishing or just my style of fishing kind of fits that better. But man, if guys are struggling, I am super happy on the water. It seems like
Yeah.
those grinder tournaments are kind of built for me. So
I'm the same way. I like finesse and all that, so I really enjoy tough grinder tournaments. Like that's my man. It's right up my alley. whenever everybody's like, "Ah, today sucked," I'm like, "Yeah, it did. All right." I look forward to it. Mark, so like what? I don't know. How do you win a lot? So, like it seems like even for somebody who wins a lot like you do, who's always getting a check, is it more difficult to not do well, or do you feel like is it like I guess for the I'm thinking about this for the new guy. The new guy is like suck, 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 suck all the time. And eventually you get like, oh, okay, I'm starting to do well. I'm doing well. A couple of years in, you're staying, some people come in right away and they win or they do whatever. But usually for the average, it takes a long time. It's a learned skill. But whenever you get to the top where, you're one of the best in the sport out there, is because you expect to do well whenever you go out. Is it tougher to suck, or is it easier because you've done so well? You know what I'm saying? Like it. I guess I'm
I
trying to
don't
look
know. I'm
for.
on a sucky streak right now, man. It's
Yeah, but
out
I
of the
mean,
last 6 times I've been on the water, I've only had a limit once out of 6 days.
oh, you do
So
suck.
this is the worst slump I've ever been in.
You're awful.
But I gotta say that I'm not. I haven't been going out there just trying to catch a limit neither.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of did at Gunnersville, I guess, but Pickwick, I went into that event, chance to win Angler of the Year, and my whole mindset was I'm gonna win the tournament, and that didn't happen. Which the second day of the tournament, I ended up having the best bag of the day, and that's my last limit that I've had. And then Chick, I had a great practice, and at a championship event, there's no points. So points events, like I look at them different, I guess. A championship and a points event. Uh, a championship event, you're just there to win it, right? And so all the championships, I kind of fish with bass. Like at Russell, I kind of was thinking 80 inches was going to be right up there in the top 10, and I caught 80 even the first day, and I was in 30th place. There were like 10 or more people with 90, 10 or 12. And then it blew me away because I wasn't expecting that. Everybody was talking about how tough it was, and I was thinking I can maybe get 80 here. So the next day I went to a different spot, and luckily I had 80 some inches, and I finished 13th, just right outside, and then making the 10. But but my expectations there was I had a goal to catch this amount of fish. I didn't have a goal to catch 100 a day like Eric did. I mean, he actually just blew us away, him and a John guy. But this year at Chick, I was thinking it was going to take 100 a day because I my first fish was about a 12 or 13 incher, and then I caught a 14-inch fish in the same area, and all the other fish I caught in practice, the next smallest one was 17 inches. I ended up having a pretty decent practice, and I was thinking it's going to take 100 inches to win this thing. But I was on the fish to do it. It just didn't work out for me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just didn't. I was all in on one spot instead of having a backup spot just to say get a filler limit the first day to stay alive.
yeah,
Because the fish they were schooled up, and I knew if they come in there at 4 or 5 casts, then I could have right at 100 inches. Which didn't work out for me. But my mind all day was thinking it could happen anytime. It could happen anytime. I never really gave up. And then time ran out. You know, but usually I don't do that. But in a championship situation, that's I was in it to win it, and you went down swinging, sort of like swinging for a home run ball.
gotcha. So and to share when talking about sucking and having a bad tournament, what's y'all's worst tournament experience? Like, had the worst day? That way, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe somebody new or somebody that they're really trying and they're having a bad tournament. Like, can you share one time whenever it just sucked awful so bad that it was just like it made you want. I remember one tournament, one dude before he got off the water. This was a couple of years ago. I don't remember who he was. He had his kayak, all of his gear posted online before he even got back to the ramp. It was like a KBF event, and I forget who it was. I was like,
Man,
that's a bad day. I'll share mine. Like I was fishing a college event down on the St. John's, still in a bass boat, and man, we had it locked down, had it won. You know, like we knew this tournament, if like everywhere we were making a over an hour run. It was my plan the whole time, and it just worked out. So, not because I'm a genius, it just worked out. We even stayed down there, that part of St. John's down south of Astor, even though we were putting in like at a northwest lake. There's a bunch of lakes on St. John's, and we were going all the way down south, and we get like 10 minutes into our or 15 minutes into our run, and we spin a hub, and the lower unit breaks on the boat. It was my partner's boat, and like you know we couldn't fish that day. The next day we didn't go out because I guess I'm from saltwater, and I didn't think trolling around was just at that lake was the smart or safe thing to do without a big motor. It felt unsafe for me at the time. Now I'm in a kayak where we just use a motor like that. But and then we watched later the people who won were doing the same thing as we were in the same areas, except that was just our limit fish. We also had big fish, like big fish spots where we were. So, I mean, it was an easy win. Like, I really felt like totally had it won. And I was so mad about that tournament for like a month. I just couldn't get over it because we had this tournament won, perfect plan. And I think the person who won was like Jordan Lee. It was either him or Matt Lee. Whenever I was going to college, they were still fishing college at Auburn. So that's my worst beat ever. It feels like. How about y'all?
I can remember my worst ones better than I can my best days. To be honest with you, just because I guess it aggravates you. And but as far as my worst one, or as far as expectations was, is back in my bass boat days. Me and my buddy, we won our first club tournament, and it was the end of May on Bugs Island, and it was a 2 day event because it's a pretty good ways away from us. So we do the club done a 2 day event, and we won by like 5 or 6 pounds. You know, the one year. So the next year we had the same tournament, the same time of year. Me and my buddy go down there. We go and run the same water the 1 day of practice. And like we're just making one cast on these spots, and then we're catching a fish. Like our first 3 spots, we catch a fish. They're set up the exact same as they was the year before. It's going to be like, you just automatically think
Auto
this is going to be
test.
awesome. It's going to be the same thing as it was last year. And we lost a lot of fish doing what we was doing. But we just had a lot of confidence. And so the next day of practice, we go fish. Bugs Island is a gigantic lake. So we actually go to the opposite end of the lake. And the second day of practice, we've had probably the most fish I've ever caught on the water, like in within an hour or something. We caught, it was like 17 casts in a row. We caught a fish or something.
Wow.
And it was end of May. So it was all post spawn. All the fish were, just gaining up on these points. And,
Yeah.
but there was only like 5. We ended up catching like 35 fish, and maybe 7 of them was keepers, 14 inchers. So they wasn't big, they're just a bunch of fish, and they were biting every cast. So, we didn't, we had our pattern down the lake. We are, we're going to do that. The next day was a tournament. So next day, and the thing was, the weather never changed. The weather was the same every day. So the next day, first day of the tournament, we fished an 8-hour tournament all day and never had a bite. We never got a bite.
Hmm.
And that's brutal when you don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? We just run to the next spot, and we kept doing we was using different lures, but we just kept running spots, sort of, and we didn't change up. And uh, we had some old buddies. You know, they were older fishermen, and they kind of helped us out. They were like, "Did y'all downsize?" Because we were, you know, you threw the mag lizards, mag worms, like the bigger stuff. Post spawn down there, there's just so many fish. Man, that lake's full of fish. You can just throw bigger baits usually, and you get bigger fish. So we never even thought about downsizing or anything. So the next day we go out and downsize, and we got us a limit, but I don't know. I just kicked her butt all day not to get a bite. Yeah. And that's two of us, you know. That wasn't just one of us by ourselves either.
Matt?
Yeah, it's actually probably about 2 weeks ago.
Oh man.
Yeah, kayak tournament here in Indiana. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gerby or not. So, you know, they pit.
I thought it was Grubby.
Grubby, Gerby.
Yeah.
Depends on
Gotcha.
who you ask, I guess. But they had an early tournament actually on a place called Kokomo where I kind of cut my teeth fishing. And then kind of the best day was Sunday weather-wise, so I picked Sunday. So, you know, I'm keeping an eye on it. On the tournament, Thursday, a guy catches 3 fish within like an hour, and then nothing. I go back, I look Saturday, nobody caught anything, zeros on the board. I show up Sunday, I'm like, man, you know, there's like 12 or 14 of us fishing that day, and I'm like, man, somebody's going to find them. And I start fishing some stuff, and I actually put my kayak in the water, and I just got everything rigged out. My new unlimited, got everything rigged out, got everything, all my wiring done. A few days before, got the boat registered. Everything's great. You know, I plug it in, make sure everything's got power here at the house. I'm like, oh, great, everything's good. Get my batteries charged, get there to the lake. Push off, put my motor down, hear the XI3 kick on. You know, all the lights come on, and then just dead on the remote. My remote batteries were dead. So I'm like, oh no. So, you know, I already knew it was going to be a tough day on the water just because of how it was fishing. It was super muddy, super high water, super cold water. So just everything. And this is a super shallow fishery. I mean, we're talking like 5 feet is deep there. Like it's a very, very tight lake to fish on. And, you know, I knew paddling was going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I already wasn't looking forward to the day at that point, and continued to fish all day without a single bite. Looked at Tourney X, and that guy that caught fish on Thursday was the only guy that caught anything. So, you know, I think kind of looking at leaderboard and looking at Tourney X kind of, you know, typically I don't do that in a tournament. With a multi-day tournament, I was like, yeah, I'll kind of keep an eye on it. And man, I think that spun me out. And then with the motor deal, kind of spun out even more. So that was an interesting 8 hours on the water of talking to myself and just kind of in a not great headspace, I would say, for fishing. Yeah. So
at least you can yell and cuss out there and nobody hears you. So.
That's right.
So who's somebody y'all think, like, who's somebody you look up to with maybe their, you know, the way they come away from a bad tournament or the way they go into a tournament, whoever you think has the right mindset to where about, you know, their expectations or how they're going to do or how they did after. For me, it's he was on the KFL team with me, Joe McElroy. That guy, you cannot get Joe McElroy down. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be fishing in a toilet and he's going to have a great time. I mean, he just, you know, he goes to these tournaments and he does great a lot of times, but even if he has a bad day or a good day, he's still had a good day, you know, and I really, you know, I really appreciate somebody like that who can go out, be competitive, want to kick everybody's butt, but at the end of the day, still see the fun in it and come home with a, you know, not be down about it, I guess. I wish I was more like that.
Yeah, Joe's a great guy, man.
Yeah.
But I don't know of anybody that I can think of that. I don't know. I'm downer, man. Man, if I have a bad time, I get grumpy
Yeah.
and down. But I mean, even though I'm thankful, you know what I'm saying. Deep down, I'm thankful I had the opportunity to fish or compete, but I don't like.
And I mean, there's a few people here in the state. Brian Moore is one of them. That dude is just, he's always, he's a football coach, so he's always up. He's always like, kind of like just positive throughout. Actually, somebody else too, Jackson Orr. I've seen Jackson, with me, I'm lucky enough to be one of the members of the IKA Indiana Kayak Anglers board. So, we kind of see both sides of it. So I see an angler to angler side, but then I also see kind of how they are in the background and kind of working with us too. And man, Jackson Orr, he's got a really good head on him,
And Jesus is his co-pilot. He's riding in the back with him all the time. And I think that's a great thing, like having a philosophy or a religion or whatever it is whatever you subscribe to or both, that, whether it's, I got the PMA bracelets, like I try to stay positive. I'm, in life in general and just all these, I think there's definitely ways to do it where you can look some people like Jackson who relies on his faith, I'm sure, out on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not going to let things get him down. Same way with Joe Mack. He's same way. I really appreciate them people like that have an inner strength. I think there's some of the, they're obviously some of the best competitors out there.
Yeah, and I've seen kind of the opposite way too, guys that kind of implode and explode and just aren't pleasant to be around after a tough day on the water. So kind of seen both sides of it, and yeah, I mean Jackson's great. Like Aiden Darlington. I mean, there's a bunch of sticks up here. Nick Matthews is another one. So all those kind of younger guys, they really have a good head on their shoulders and really don't get too worked up going either way, too excited or too in the dumps. So it's a good balance. Shows a hell of a lot of maturity.
I would say Jody Queen too. And Jody really hates to lose, but Jody just don't have too many bad days, man.
Yeah.
That dude can catch fish. I mean, I fished right beside him before, and it's unbelievable what he can do. And he's only got a handful of baits. I mean, he just don't have a bigger range of different stuff he does. I mean, and that shows you that a lot of people like me, for instance, I take too much stuff, and I know I do, but my mindset is if I keep switching up, I'll find something, they're going to hit. But, the fish are either going to be on top, they're going to be suspended, or they're going to be on the bottom. They're going to be chasing baits, they're going to be not chasing baits, got to fish slower. So it's really keeping it simple,
Yeah.
And people like Jody's been around fishing so long, he just knows he just doesn't get excited.
Yeah.
When things ain't going right.
Yeah.
And then that's what I guess a lot of us happens. So a lot of us will have that mindset before the practice. We'll have plan A, and plan A don't work. It's like, what are we going to do now? It's all over with. But and I usually have my better tournaments when I don't have a plan A or B. It's you're going into the event with an open mind, and then you just start figuring it out.
I really think for me, for practice, like if I go into an event, it's, I want to look at all the water. I don't necessarily care about fishing as much. You hear a lot of people talk about it. Like you can figure them out like Coleman, they just had an event where it was 3 small lakes. And I'd never been there, but I was able to fish the whole lake look at it all with my motor pretty quick, so it wasn't, it was only like 5 miles one end to the other. It wasn't that big at most. So yeah. But I rather just fish what's in front of me rather than, you know, go in with a plan of this spot. I'm gonna do this milk run, and unless you're like ledge fishing offshore, and then you have certain spots you want to fish, because it's certain kinds of structure in certain areas. But most of the time, I'd rather just fish what's in front of me.
Anytime I've had a plan of like, hey, I'm gonna go to A, I'm gonna go to B, I'm gonna go to C, like, and D, and kind of do a milk run or figure something out. It seems like, man, if by spot 2 I don't have a limit, my confidence and I'm like, there goes the day, almost, instead of just kind of fishing what's in front of me and kind of adjusting to what's going on, conditions, things like that. I seem to do better that way as well.
I think it's easier to get upset too. Like, oh, somebody's on my spot.
Yeah.
You get that third spot. Oh, I should have went here first. Oh, somebody's on my spot, and it just never works out. It's not very often. It's like this spot wins it. It's it's fishing correctly.
Yeah. Well, at the chick tournament, first and second was at my ramp. Yeah. So, I mean, the first place guy, Ryan, he moved, but he caught a couple fish up there before he moved. So you're in the right area. But there's times when it's the area deal, and then there's times when you're figuring out the bite deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just different, and it's all parts of the lake you fish. I mean, like, Matt hit a button.
He'll be back.
Yeah, I ain't went out yet, so Matt beat me to it. But there's times when like at Chick, man, it was a foot lower than winter pool. So what I've learned here in the last year or so, and just I watch a lot of live, all kinds of live, and water fluctuation has a huge impact on the way fish respond. Like where Chick, when it went down below winter pool, them fish didn't know what to do. I think they dropped it down lower, expecting a bunch of more rain than what rain we actually got. I think that's the reason for dropping it.
Gotcha.
And, but just like a Tennessee River fish, they expect current. That's how they feed a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
But the water temp in some of the places was up in the 60s on the flats and stuff. So anywhere else you would be, and your water temp's getting in the 60s, wouldn't you be thinking the spawn? Wouldn't you think fish would start to think spawn? But from my understanding, on a place like that, when it's that low, the fish kind of know the water level ain't right yet to make a bed.
Yeah.
I guess they get taught. It just seems different. I don't.
Yeah. I think speaking of mindset and stuff like that, I listened to this episode. I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard it, but it's the podcast Dave Mercer from Bass. He had on Rick Clun. I mean, this guy's in his 70s, and that episode was the most interesting fishing podcast I've ever heard. That man there's it's obvious why he's so good. He has gotten so in depth with studying like sports psychology, motivation, momentum, being confident, and he's studied all these topics on like a scientific level, a sports science, and all these things that he's got everybody. He might be the oldest and his body ain't working the best, but he has the most. He's got it together in the head probably better than anybody else on the water. I mean, if you're looking for like a mindset kind of, different things you could be thinking about psychologically and fishing, man, that was a great episode to go back and listen to. It really truly got me thinking about some things of how to build momentum and how how to stay focused, get in the people talk about being in the flow and these different type things. And I've really been focusing on that too, of how the things I can do to keep me in the water, in the moment, and things like that. Like I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I've really been focusing on each cast, like visualizing what I think is going to happen and just really trying to hyper focus on exactly what I'm doing, my rod, my reel, not looking around at a bunch of other things, just focusing on exactly that second and what's going on. And that's really kind of got me into, into that, the flow, or whatever you want to call it, or closer to it at least, I'm
No, his
off
book,
topic.
his book's tremendous too.
I've never read it.
Yeah, I think it was written back in the '80s. I think.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read it, but yeah, a lot of that stuff is included in there, and yeah, it's mindset is it's something.
I'm writing that down. I'm going to read that book.
Yeah, it's I remember, I watch a lot of fishing. I listen to a lot of fishing. I watch a lot of live, all of that. And I remember, I can't remember where it was. I want to say possibly Toledo Bend, where KVD was catching them cranking, and he had a really big one pull off at the boat, and he just kind of fired right back out there, cranked again. Another one jumped off. He kind of looks back at the camera and he grins and he's like, well, at least I know where they're at. Like, to where I would be like, if that was like Mike Iaconelli or somebody else that had not quite the maturity that KVD had, like, that could have been disastrous. But I mean, he still dominated that tournament. But just to be in that mindset of, hey, this is going wrong, but this is also really what's going right too. Which is, I think it's tough for all of us to do at times, especially on the water.
That
Yeah,
seemed right.
at times I've actually done that before. Lost at the first national championship, KBF. I went into that tournament just thinking I was going to win the daggone thing. I had this. I don't know what it was. It was just this thought process going in that I could win it, and that was the first year I got into kayak fishing, and it was $100,000 for first prize. So I took my bass boat to Kentucky Lake. I mean, it was legal,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a way to cover more ground, and stuff like that. And I had a little 10-foot kayak at the time, and I never did practice out of my kayak. I just wasn't comfortable. Never had a graph on it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And but after practice, I had a mediocre practice. Really didn't have a great practice, but I picked a spot, and just my mindset that whole tournament was like, I'm going to win this thing. I'm going to win this. And the first day out of 750, I think I was 25th. But I lost probably a 4 or 5 pounder because my next fish was ended up being my biggest fish, whatever it was. I don't remember. But I lost a real big one, just like you said. And then I just had it in my mind. I made another cast and hooked up again, and it was the biggest fish I had. But at the time, I had that little 10-foot kayak, and every time I'd catch one, I'd run to the bank with it, get out, and put it down there, and take a picture, jump back in, go out, and by that time, whatever schooling deal that I found was done. And then the next day is that's where your mental game starts coming in. That night, do I go to my other spot where I know I can catch at least? I don't know if I can get a limit, but I know I can catch 4 or 5. I knew I could catch some there. Uh, or do I go back to this spot and maybe catch what I caught the first day? Or maybe. So that little mind game there gets you thinking and second guessing yourself. And I said, well, I got to go where I just caught them. And I get over there, and then soon as I get over there, it's like first cast, and it's like 7 o'clock or something, whatever it was. With the exact same time this bass boat tournament, or back in that little river I was in, they launched out, and here come 20 bass boats by me, and the fishing sucked all day. It was just horrible all day. But I committed to the area, and I was like, in my mind, I didn't think I could go pedal, 45 minutes, load up, drive another 45 minutes, just to catch a few fish. I only ended up catching one fish that day,
Mm.
but it's such a mind game. Like,
Yeah.
the first day I had all that confidence, and then that night I started second guessing, do I fish here or there? And then, yeah, I think the results show.
It's tough, man. Fishing stuff. I mean, at
But
the end of the day, you can be positive. You can try not to have too, big expectations so you're not let down or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you're going to have some bad days. Just try not to take them quite
that's the thing with
so
fishing. It's going to
seriously.
happen. You're going to have
Yeah,
bad days.
Yeah.
If you fish a lot, you're going to have bad days. And some days you just can't do nothing right. Probably my second worst experience is Caddo, KBF Championship. In a week at Caddo, I caught 7 bass.
Hmm.
In a week at Caddo, I ain't been back, and it's probably one of the
Yeah.
best fisheries in the country. To be honest with you, but I haven't been back. And that was the only time I've ever took a friend with me. It was a 15-hour drive for us, and one of the guys in the local club said, "Man, can I ride with you?" Kind of didn't want to, but I was like, "Yeah, what the heck." So we get down there, and he ended up finishing 8th overall.
Oh man. Same
Yeah, I mean,
launches.
he had a
Yeah.
great day, and like after the first day, I can't remember. He had like 80 some the first day, not great, but still top 30ish or something. I don't really remember. And he has bad luck. He kind of brings bad luck on himself. He lost like I don't even remember what size it was, but he had his 5th fish and it jumped off the board the first day. And then he ended up catching another one, getting his limit or whatever. And I think in 3 days of competition, I think I caught like 3 or 4 fish. It was absolutely horrible. And I asked him after the first day, where do I need to take you? Where do you want to fish? You want to fish? Because we was on cross the first day. And I said, you think you can do the same thing on there, or you want to go to Kayak? He's like, it's up to you, man. I'm riding with you. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm out of it, man. You got to tell me where you want to go. It doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. I'm like, yeah. It didn't matter. I mean, I let him on the last day. I let him get a limit before I went over to him, and I was going to take some pictures and stuff because I
Yeah.
mean he had kind of a chance to maybe even win it, but I don't. That was a really bad. But what I ended up doing was I knew the fish were probably spawning. You just couldn't see them, but I fished too fast,
Yeah.
and that's what I do this time of year. After I started filming myself, and that's one good thing about filming yourself. You can see stuff that you do that you didn't know you did. Dude, I fish really, really fast. Real. And the shot, I mean, if it's not the right time of year, like right now, it's hard to fish fast. I mean, and then do well.
All right. Well, I appreciate y'all being on. It's been an hour. I don't want to keep y'all up, especially you, Mark. I know you worked all day. Um, man, I want to give you a chance to shout out anybody who makes fishing easier for you. Mark, we'll start with you.
Uh, Fishing online, Dakota Lithium batteries, Folks Custom, and Native Kayaks. They all got my back. So appreciate.
Cool.
I appreciate you, Dan, for giving me an opportunity to jabberjaw tonight.
Yeah, man. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, Dan, appreciate you having us on. New Canoe, um, uh, B&O batteries. I've been using those for the last few years. Great battery. Also, PH Custom Lures. I've been with those guys for a really long time. Secret Lures, home of the stupid tube. If you
That's
don't
right.
know what a stupid tube is, you better learn. Dubro Fishing, and then also log jam fishing. So
What's the
I
log jam?
appreciate it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. What's a log jam?
log jam fishing. They're a clothing brand here in Indiana. Really about small streams and river fishing, and they're a great upcoming brand. So check them
Cool.
out on Facebook, on Instagram. They've got some really high quality stuff too. So
Yeah, we'll do. Log Jam. Check it out.
Yeah.
All right. We appreciate y'all listening. We'll see you again next week. Yeah. Well, let me find my thing here. Do I have a? No, I don't have one. All right. I'm still thinking about paddling fin stuff. All right. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all again next week. Be safe out there. Later.